Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be going over a very last minute topic, and that is a new engine was just announced as a TCG exclusive import in AGOV. So I made sure to quickly get to the recording setup and just give you guys a quick rundown on these cards. I think they are actually way more impactful than I think people realize, and even if they aren't significant at this exact moment in time, they will absolutely have meta competitive viability for sure until they get hit or somehow something better gets released. So yes, let me just get straight into it, and I'll show you the cards I'm talking about. Okay, so there's these two new cards were just released as exclusives for TCG only, and that is Ken the Dragon Warrior and Jen the Diamond Tiger. Both these are commons in the newest set, so they shouldn't be hard for everyone to get on, anybody concerned about price points. But I think I've not seen enough people talk about them, and considering how insane I think they are, I felt like I needed to make a discussion video on why these cards should have a profound impact on the meta, at least somewhere down the line, if not now. But I guess before we do anything, let's read the cards so you know what they're doing. Jen is probably the better one of the two, although we use both in tandem. Once per turn, at the end of the battle phase, return this card from the field to the hand. They both have that ability. This one's not super important. This is like, I think, a countermeasure in there so that you can still use evenly matched despite using this card, and you'll understand why in a second. And then the next effect is during the main phase, special summon a Ken, the Warrior Dragon, from your hand or deck to your opponent's side of the field and face up defense position. And this one has the same effect, but in reverse, summoning Jen. And then it says, if this card is special summoned by the effect of Ken the Dragon or the Warrior Dragon, discard one card. So if you use this effect, special this to your opponent, they have to activate the effect to discard a card. It is of their choice, but still, discard a card, whatever. That one's more manageable, but this one is really good. So if you hit the effect special Ken's effect, if it's summoned, is opponent draws 2 and then discards 1. So you, the player who activated Jen, gets to draw 2, discard 1. Now, again, these go to your opponent's field, so the reason why I think they have this clause here is that your opponent can still use evenly. It's not blocking them off of their ability to use this. And they want to kind of, maybe felt like the giving your opponent monsters things a little toxic for cards like Kashtira struggles with it. But yeah, I mean that part's not big. I mean the biggest thing here, you have to draw 2, discard 1, and I mean even if that at a base level was it, I'd still say the cards are solid. So like let's think for a second what generic normal summons we have that gives you card advantage, and I don't know what the best one is right now. Like not that long ago, I guess, I mean it was like 8 years ago, but we used to play stuff like Mathematician to send Shadal Squamata, then Shadal used to draw a card, right? Like a +1 like that was considered good. Draw 2, discard 1 is definitely leagues better at the very minimum, and the fact that that's not something we can do, should have meaning in any deck that doesn't have normal summons. Purely has some normal summons but doesn't need them, so you can even play this in purely to draw 2, discard 1, and a deck that wants as much engine as possible, that's for sure viable. You can play it in any deck with graveyard effects as well, so in tiers like this is the draw 2, discard 1, you can see why that is potentially playable. I think there are several different strong options here, right? But it doesn't stop there, right? So draw 2, discard 1, and it's activated by opponent's effect. This actually turns on the Dark World's second ability. So if you guys don't know, most of the Dark World monsters say if it's discarded from your hand by an opponent's card effect, you get something extra. So say you're playing a Dark World Purely deck now. You have a small Dark World engine in there, and then you have the Purely cards, and now you kind of minimize your cats a little bit more to fit in a different normal summon engine, and you chose to play Gen again. And we open up with their Gen, we special Ken to their field, so we have to draw 2, discard 1, and we discard Brow. So we did that, we went down to 4 cards in hand, then we discarded Brow. So we had 3, we drew 2, so we're back up at 5, and then Brow triggers, we draw 2, we go up to 7. That's a lot of cards, right? Like, you're up 3 cards total from when you started the turn, because you have the monster in field, and then 2 more in hand than you started with, which is really good. You're seeing 4 new cards in your deck, so you get to your purely spells. And obviously there's many of the Dark Worlds with effects as well. Like, it's the same as triggering a Ceruli, where now you get to, discard Dark World cards for the bonus effect. You could discard a Silva and place 2 cards from hand at the bottom of your deck in any order. So that's 2 cards gone from the opponent. That's kind of scary, right? Like, ripping 2 from the opponent is pretty good. While drawing 2 at the same time. So say we opened up Jen, Silva, Jen special this, draw 2, discard Silva, special this, rip 2. Now we are back at 5 in hand. They lost 2 cards, and we have 2 bodies in field. So we're at a nice +4. Yeah, that's fair, guys. This seems good. But again, it doesn't stop there. In some decks as well, you want to play ways to remove the monsters so they can't then go effect on their next turn to use it again. But again, a deck like Purely can do this so easily because you have Beauty to suck up, and then oop, that's an extra material. You can sack off the Gen to steal the Ken, and now your Beauty's at 4 mats. Now it's very easy just to attach 1 more from your hand, and that's a Gnar. And you didn't have to use Yeep, so you're not weak to books, and you didn't have to draw Delicious. So that's important for a Purely's perspective as well. Like, that is a meaningful difference. Yeah, and then it's a body as well. The level 3 Light Warriors, both of them. So one, they can search below Rhoda, which is meaningful. You can also Ice Ult for them. You know, Ice Ult Insane. And being the same stat line pretty much for level attribute type means you can unlock some good link plays. One thing I really wanted to talk about again is it's your opponent activating the effect here, and this forces them to use an effect. So this turns on stuff like Talents and Thrust. Now this is dumb, because now you can maximize, say, 6 talents in your decks, and you don't have to worry about your opponent never proccing your effects, because if you're worried about your cards being dead and you just have these in tandem, doesn't matter, right? Like, the only counterplay there is like Imperm, otherwise you just get slaughtered. Because say we will go Gen, get Ken, and we have both of these in our hands. We draw 2, discard 1. We draw some more cards with Browsher. Now we go Talents, look at their hand. We see what they're playing. All right, let's shuffle the card back. Change a Heart. Let's steal the... We go Thrust, get Change a Heart. Steal the Ken that we just gave them. Ken effect, give them Gen. Rip another card now. And now we have 2 level 3s on the field. 2 level 3 Warriors. You could do something like Cherubini. You could do something like Gossip Shadow to play on hand traps if you saw their hand. You can make Dante, you can make Isol. Like, there are options that are really good. You can just make IP. That's also fine for SP Little Knight. If you're playing a Bestial deck like Dragon Link, what if you make Leviair there and you discarded a meaningful card off of the Ken? So then you go Bestial, banish, Leviair, summon. You just go so far ahead. You can do this stuff with Cashier as well. So say you have Unicorn in your hand, you can special Unicorn. You can go Gen, give them Ken triggers, now Unicorn triggers. You see their extra deck, cool, banish a card, now you know what they're playing. And then you can go like add Theosis, special Fenrir, add what's it called, add your Arise Hearts, and then you can go Big Eye, which is cool. So if you make Shang, you can special Rise Heart, banish, banish Big Bang, summon out one of these, make Big Eye, steal the other one, rip another card from their hand, and then make a rank 3. And that could be fine as well, right? Or say you're playing Tyr. If it's Fenrir, you add Tyr Cash. You draw 2, discard 1. You discard Sulik. You add Halfness. And then you go Tyr Cash, banish the Sulik. You mill 3 cards. Cool, 3 mills. Then you get to go Big Eye. You get to steal the Ken. You get to give them Gen. They have to discard a card now. Fantastic. But when you activate the effect, you chain Halfness, and you get mill 3 more cards. And then afterwards, you have 3 level 3s on the field. You can make Dante, mill 3 more, which I know is a cost, but still, milling is still good on that deck. You could Cherubini, which can send a King of the Swamp. It can send Fiendish Rhino Warrior. Fiendish Rhino Warrior can then send like a Hellshadal to mill more cards. Or it can send Shyama, which is pretty good. And say you were playing like an Unchained deck, right? And you didn't want to play Tour Guide, so this one's questionable because, again, not playing Tour Guide, but you have Jen and Ken in your deck, and you have you're maxing your talents, and you have a Change of Heart in there. So you have 7 like ways to play with this. So you get to do the draw 2, discard 1, and then discard 1 from their hand, which is a strong combo. And then you get to make Cherubini, and you send Rhino, and then you send Shavara, or you send Shyama, and then you play afterwards. Super convenient. And you can just discard a Rhino as well if you draw it instead, and then just use it for something else. Yeah, there's just so many options here, right? You can see what your opponent's playing. Thrust for a card that does something, like you can, if you main deck Barrier, which I'm not sure if you do, but yeah, I mean, you just have a lot of ways to like 2-card combo these into something meaningful, like really meaningful, or at the very least draw 2, discard 1. Now, I'm not sure if this is something where you're gonna play 3 and 3, because that kind of goes against the 5 normal summons you try and do. It could just be 3 and 1, where Jen is the better standalone card and Ken's not as much. Or you could try and really hyper focus on the synergy aspect between forcing your opponent to activate an effect with like Cash Tiras or Steel cards, and playing 3 and 3 But yeah, I mean, obviously these cards aren't going to go in every deck. It is going to be important to meet a couple criteria that your normal summon isn't of extreme importance to the deck. There are some decks where the normal summon maybe is too important, or it's just still stronger than this, and that definitely can happen, right? Like, say in Rekka, I'd say your normal summon's probably definitely more important than a Gen or Can. Like, it's more powerful what it accomplishes. That's very much not true for everything, but when it's not true, I think Gen and Can are just really good. And anytime Talent or Thruster in a format, these cards are even more insane as well, because now we're guaranteed forcing Gen and Ken, or we're guaranteeing the Thrust and Talents aren't dead, because that's a big concern, right? Like, when we're entering the tournament right now, from my perspective, it's if I'm playing hand traps, well, I get Thrusted or Talents, maybe I cut down on my hand traps, only to play the most powerful ones, because I don't want to get Thrusted or Talented. But you don't have a say in the matter now if this happens to you, right? Like, if you book check all board breakers, you're feeling good, and then they do Gen, and they talent strip your hand, they see what you're playing, they play around your field, you also down a card, and then also this shit stuck in your field, so you have to go battle phase, still goes to your hand, so you waste the battle phase, which is terrible, especially if you're trying to play like a board breaker deck with like lightning storms and you want to storm them and kill them. But yeah, I mean, it's just very good, and I'm curious to see how it impacts the meta, like, empirically. But if I had to make a guess, a hypothesis, I would say that this deck will show up in, I'm going to say about a quarter of the decks in Top Cut of Indy. I don't know if that's too little, or too many, but I also think this will have an impact in, every format until there's some sort of restrictions on cards like Talents, Thrust, or the Gen and Ken. They just synergize so well with all that, and it's just remarkable. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think of this engine. Are you happy with their comments as well? These could have been great hits in the packs, but now obviously they're going to be super accessible for everybody. Do you think I'm overhyping anything here? Do you think this was a mistake, or have they really just released another crazy engine in AGOV? Yeah, feedback is always welcome, and that's all for now, guys. I'll see you next time. Peace.